So I have a little surprise for you today. Something has appeared. Look! A polytunnel! Now this is an old wine rack and I was going to take it and use it just to organise some pots, but if I bring it up carefully, it seems to have become the place where these little ladybirds, I think these are 22 spot, want to hibernate. So we're going to leave them well alone because there's some there, there's another bunch here, and there's quite a lot inside. So we're going to leave all of this just under this all of winter and leave them well alone. So polytunnels have been at the top of our wish list, but it's something we can't buy until the house sells. So I've just been waiting. But I've been trying to get everything out of the barn because we don't want to rely on the barn, because that hopefully is the future place of our home. So I really didn't want the barn to become this sort of storage site, and that's one of the reasons I also moved all of the hutches out that you saw in the last video. However, my parents came up and they fell in love with the goats, and then I got a very funny phone call from my mum saying, I'm ordering you a polytunnel. I'm really worried about the goats in the rain at night. I'm going to get you a poly and you can put them in the polytunnel until the weather improves next year. And so I have a polytunnel. It's big enough to keep the goats and Capulet in at night, and also to have a little bit of a growing bit at the end until next year, when obviously the goats can all move out permanently and then we'll have the whole thing back. So here are our goatees. Capulet is in the field next door. He was calling to his sheepy friends, so he's gone next door. The goats are in the market garden. They're tethered, and I'm just having them eat all of this grass down from last year. And then here is the poly. So it's a relatively small one. We're going to have a lot bigger ones when we get commercially growing. It's a 3 metre by 6 metre. So it's pretty good. I got it yesterday and I put it up, and then I've just buried all the edges under the ground. And then this is what I mean by the boys have a little indoor bit. I could have made it slightly wider, but I was concerned about horns and plastic. So they can still stand up on the edges of this, but they won't actually manage to pierce anything, which is quite good. And they've been perfectly happy in here. I've got loads of sawdust that I can put down. So they're in here at night, and when it rains and literally just this fence comes across, and then they've got the little central section. I'm leaving the top open because with that down it would get way too hot and claustrophobic in there. The only one problem with that is obviously now that allows the wind to rush in, and this morning it had pulled up some of this. So we'll see what we may have to do in the future as it gets colder, as we may just have to roll this down maybe halfway, so that they can still they've still got an airflow. But it's not allowing all of the wind to circulate in there. And it's a really nice polytunnel. It's got these windows, so you can open it up in the summer. And then I've got my little walkway down here. And then I've just set up a couple of shelving units. Now this, if you can believe it, are my 120 lavenders. I've got 98 remaining. So I've only lost 22, which isn't too bad. So I've moved them in here because they were just sat in a field, but I've moved them in here because I think just the slight bit of warmth and shelter in here will just help a few of them, like this one that's kind of on its last legs. It will help it kind of rejuvenate. And obviously they look awful. Lavender always looks awful in the winter when it goes dormant, but I'm hoping a little bit more warmth and protection in here will mean that it can sort of get growing a little bit. We have got some completely dead ones, but you know, I'm not one to throw these things away, so we're just going to leave them for a little bit and see if they recover. However, today's job is all about these. These are our ranunculus. So these are the first flowers for the flower farm that I'm going to be planting. Now these come as claws, and they're really, really dried up initially, and they look basically dead. And you soak them in water. So these have been soaked in water. Can we get the camera to focus? Are you going to focus on anything? There we go. I'll take my face out. So these have been soaked in water overnight, and they've swollen up considerably. So you plant these this way down. So this is the growing tip here. And then these are the swollen little root nodules. So we've got 120 of these in pink, white, yellow and red. And then this morning, I also have these anemones. So this morning, they only take 3 hours to rehydrate. So I just popped them into the same batch of this. Ooh. And this is them. And again, these go point down rather than point up. Normally with anemones, you do point up. Normally with bulbs, you do point up, but actually they go point down. So you plant them like that. And they haven't actually hydrated up as much as I thought, so I'm going to leave them in the water for a bit longer. They've probably only been in for a couple of hours. In the meantime, I'm going to get all of these dozens and dozens and dozens of ranunculus planted. They do need shelter, which is why I've been waiting for the polytunnel. So you could plant them in the spring, and you could plant them outside in that case and get them started. But if you want some nice early flowers, so these should start flowering about March, you need to protect them from frost. So they're going to be all planted into pots and then kept in here. I mean, actually over the next couple of weeks it's warm enough that we'll start to see them sprout. It's also worth remembering that actually with the goats in here, their body heat will actually raise the temperature in here a little bit. And that's why you should never lock chickens in, for example, because they need ventilation, because otherwise they just get too hot even in the middle of winter. So with the goats, the ambient temperature is going to be warmer than outside. Now my plan next year is I want to plant all of the same colours in patches. And you know what I'm like. I always think I'm going to remember what I planted, and I never do, because I don't label them. So what I've done this year, or this time with these ranunculus, is I have purposely done them in pots of the same colour. So this is all yellow, this is all white, this is all red, and then we've got the pink here. So I'm going to plant them into their pots, and then I'm going to put them in 4 batches around the polytunnel with their labels, in an attempt to remember, so that when I plant them next year, we'll get blocks of colour rather than just a random cascade of flowers. Well, there's actually more in the packet than 30 in each, and you can see that down this side I've started with fairly small pots, and they've progressively got bigger as I've gone across because I've run out of pots. And over here I had to actually double up, so I've had to put 2 claws of each of the ranunculus in each, just because I've completely run out. I never thought I'd run out of plastic pots, because, you know, if you're anything like me, there are millions of them all over the place. But it seems that near on 150 ranunculus plus almost 100 lavender just about clears you out. I've come up to see the little walkway that I made a couple of weeks ago. It's nice when you've been working hard on a project. I then like to come and rediscover it a little bit later. And it's still looking lovely. So yeah, I don't know whether I'm more excited about the polytunnel, having somewhere to go into and be warm to pet the goats. I'm just going to climb under this section. Or the fact that the first flowers of the Flower Farm 2021 are now planted, which maybe that's the most exciting bit. I don't know, it's all very exciting. There's lots happening. So thank you as always for taking some time to watch the video. If you've liked it, please hit that thumbs up button and consider subscribing. Feel free to watch some more of our videos. I've got a whole playlist of Starting the Farm of all the projects that we've started here, so you can kind of watch the development as the farm starts from nothing and progresses hopefully in the future to a very thriving business, which will be really cool to look back at. If you're on Facebook, come across and join us at Brimwood Farm's community group. But for now, I'm going to say goodbye. Bye bye.